So today I will let's start the new React project. We are done with the promise. So let's go and do a new React project. So I'll go to CD React.js and I'll create a new project. Create React app, and I'll give some name. I'll say project Ajax. Okay, so here we will see how to fetch the record from the server using the React. So how to get the data from the server using the React. Okay, so that's what the purpose of this project is. I will not be using the material UI now because the whole concentration of the project is only how to get data and how to display the data. So right now I will not display the material UI, but a simple UL and LI tag to display the data. So when we go with the real project, we will use the material UI, but this is some sample learning project, so we will not do the material UI. Okay. So let's try to see what we are going to do. So there is a website which will give me the data. So if we have server, we can create our own server and pass the data from our database. But if we don't have the server, we can use this website, to get the data for our sample learning purpose. I'll put it in the chat also and in the React Telegram group also. Okay, so now this is the way we fetch the data, and there are different kinds of API available. We will see one of the API. Okay, so one of the API, let's go down. Okay, let's see what this API does. Yeah, sorry. So this is the one API where I can see, okay, different user. I don't want this one. Okay, I'm just searching which API I can use. So if I have one more API, maybe I can use directly. It's the users. So if I put users, I see all the users here. So we will use this API especially today to get this data and display that data in the React. That is the task for today. So what is the task? See, this is the array, and in each array we have the object. This is the user 1, this is user 2, this is user 3. Like this we have different user, and I will be using this API. Okay, so this project is done. Let's try to go into the project, and I'll run the npm start. Okay, now I'll go to my localhost. So now you can also do this one till I go further. Just create a project by running the npx create react app and project name, and then npm start. Okay, do that along with me. Okay, where is the project Ajax? I'll go to the source folder app.js. I'll delete all what we have in the top. I'll delete all the content here. This part also I'll delete it. So just I'll put hello world, and then here I will say import react from react. Okay, so this is the import react from the react, and I will also go to index.css. I will delete all the contents. I don't need any CSS kind of thing. Okay, let's go here. I will put some name, users. Since we are getting the users, I will put the users here. Okay, so you are able to see the users. Now my task is I have to get the data from this website, this URL, and we have to put it inside our this one users kind of thing. So that is the task is. So generally sometimes this is the HTTPS server and our localhost is not HTTP. So if I don't get, sometimes we get the error because of this one. If I get error, I need to map. If it is HTTP, we need to call the HTTP, and we have to use HTTP for this one because sometimes there is mismatch in the URL. It may not allow you to fetch the data from the HTTPS. So for the localhost, I will use HTTP only to make sure that we get the proper data. On your production also, you should make sure your HTTPS and HTTP are matching with each other. Okay, so now my task is to fetch the data and display the data here. Okay, let's do it this one. So I have this URL which I want to fetch. So now I want to display the users. What I will get here, all the users. This is the first user, this is the second user, this is the third user. I want to display all the users on my website. Okay, this is the React website. So I need to think that since I need to put in the users, I will create state variable called as users and set users, because these, whenever we want to show something, we need the variable, and we will be creating the state variable, and you know how to create the state variable. Initially I will make the value null, that is I don't have any users, so I make the null. And once I get the data from this API, I will update this users with the data which I am getting it. That is the task. Here I will do console.log users is users to see what is the users. So right now you will see we get the users is null because initially it is null. Now I will fetch the data from this part, and then I will put that in the set users. I will call the set user that will update the users, and I will display the data. So whenever you want to do such thing, you need to use the react.use effect. So whenever you want to do something kind of on page load, you want to do some kind of stuff, you should always put in the use effect. So whenever you want to do something on page load, use react use effect. Okay, so whenever you want to do on page load, we will put in the use effect, and we will also put a empty rectangular bracket so that it should only fetch once on the page load. If we remove this, then it will call again and again whenever there is a state change, whereas there is a prop change, it will call again and again the server. So we don't want that. We want only to call this one time, so we are putting this empty array. Now here I have to call this one. Okay, so this API. So what is the URL? URL is equal to this one. This is the URL which I have to call, and there is a special command in JavaScript which fetches the data and give it back, and that is called the fetch. That is called the fetch. In the fetch has arrow function. Okay, let me see what are the parameters of the fetch is there. It's displayed here. Okay, so fetch has no arrow function. It is only the URL which I have to call. It has the URL which I have to call. Okay, if I want to post something, there is a two thing, URL and then the extra parameters which it has. So we will be using the fetch to do this. So this is the sample given for the fetch. So just what I have to do in the fetch, there is no arrow function inside the fetch. In the fetch we have to give the URL. And what is the URL I have to give? This URL, sorry. This URL. And the fetch is the promise. Since fetch is the promise, so we have to use .then. And .then has arrow function, and we will see what is coming inside the .then. Race is race. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll call this URL and we'll see what it is coming in this .then. Fetch is then promise, so we will call using the then so that we can get data from the fetch. So if I refresh it, you will see we are getting this response with body, header, OK, directed, this, blah, 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 blah. And you know, this response which we get, so to access the response in the race, there is a special method to get the data, and that data is called response.json. Since this output is JSON, see this is the JSON format, so we will get the response in the JSON format. So this is the way, and this is something given by the fetch API. So you will ask how I know that it has to be used like this. So this has been given in the fetch documentation how to use it. So whenever we call the URL, it will get the JSON in this format, and I have to return this JSON. When I return this JSON, I will get another .then parameter which I will use it, and in this .then parameter I will get the proper data. Okay, so when this is resolved kind of thing, I will get the proper data, and I will check what proper data is coming. So fetch has given this API that we have to call then two times. One is to get the JSON, and to pass the JSON and return it, we use the rest.json, which will give me ultimate data. So if you see in the documentation also, if you see they are using fetch, and then you're using .then, and then they're using the .then. So there is two .then. One is give the .json, and another will give me the real data. And that is what I'm doing it here. First .then will give me the JSON functionality, that is I will call JSON function. This is not the JavaScript function, this is the function written by the fetch API. And I return that, and when I get the proper data, I use this one. So now if I refresh the page, you will see data is this, that is I get the 10 user details. I also have to put in the catch block. Sometimes if something bad happens, I have to put in the catch block. And in the catch block, we'll get the error. Right now, I'll only display the error like error is error. I will not do anything with the error right now. I will only display it so that I can check what error we are getting it. Now, when we get this data from the page API, we will put it in the set users. So I will say set users and I will say data. That means whatever data we are getting, I will call the set users function and I will pass that data. So ultimately, when I log the users, after this fetch call, I will get the data in the users variable. So if I refresh it now, initially users in null on the page load. Then when the API give me the result, I can see all the 10 results which I get from the API, this API. Okay, now we get the data in the users. Now we have to display this users on the page. So before I go further to display it, you should write down this use effect and you have to write down this part. Then we will display the users on this page. So I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. Is this done? Okay. So those who are not done, they can do together with me. So now if you see that we have the all users in this console nodes are okay, do it. I'll give you 2 more minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead now. So we get all the users in this users one. So never try to put this page directly outside this. If you put directly this outside, that then it will create a lot of problems and it will not work properly. You have to put always the fetch call inside the use effect or in some function which can be called on the button click. Okay, so that are the two things where you have to put this fetch call. So whenever, let's say, you have the registration form, user will fill the form and then they can click the submit button. Then you can call the fetch. Or when you want to display the users on the page, then you have to use the use effect. And these are the only two places you can use the fetch call. Fetch is the call to get the data from the server or to post the data to the server. Now we have to display this user on the page. So now we have to put the curly bracket and we will here see if users is there or not. So if we have the users, then only we have to show the users in our all the users on the page. So I'll check if users is there and users dot length is greater than 0. If user is there, it should be in the array. So we have to check whether it's a greater than length is greater than 0. So this is the array. So each element is, this is the first element, this is the second element. So what we have to do, we have to see if user is there and users dot length is greater than 0, then we will show something. So I will create a div tag, and in this div tag I will say, okay, so here I will display the users, or instead of div tag I will create ul tag. Sorry, ul is the best. So what I did, I checked if user is there and users dot length is greater than 0. That means some user existed in the record. Then only I display the ul tag. This is the ul tag, and inside ul tag I will create li tag for each user. Now we have to loop through this array. Okay, so what is the best thing to loop here? What should I use to loop the array here? So we have seen different ways to loop through the array. One is called for each, one is called map, one is called filter, one is called reduce. So which one you will use it here to loop through the array? So here in React, since we will take the users array and we will manipulate it and make it a different, manipulate it to make a li tag, that means we are manipulating the users and converting into li tag, because each user I have to put inside the li tag. That means I have to take the user and I have to put in the li tag. So whenever we want to manipulate the array, we always use map. So the best to use here is map, users.map, and inside map I will have the arrow function, and arrow function will get me, see, this is the users. I can put anything, users, I can put record, or I can put user, or I can put you. For example, I'm putting you, only you. And inside map I will return, what I will return? li tag. So each user will be inside the li tag. Okay, so let's see what we can put in the li tag. Right now I will put so whenever we want to put this users map, I have to start with the curly bracket, because that is the JavaScript thing. So I cannot put directly user.map. I have to put inside the curly bracket. So if I put curly bracket, or they put directly inside the round bracket, which exactly means the same thing here. Now here it's a curly bracket, here is a round bracket. They put the round bracket here automatically, but we put this map inside the curly bracket. Otherwise, it will not work. We have to put users.map inside the curly bracket because it is a JavaScript and we need to put in the JavaScript. Now if you see here, so you will see we get blah 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 10 times because I just put blah, but I have to use the users. Let's try to see what u is coming. I'll do console.log u is u. Okay, so I will see what u is coming. U is individual user. So I have the u.name. I have u.id. Okay, let's put the name. So instead of blah, I will say u.name to display the name. So you will see I can see different name. Okay, now I also see the warning. Okay, if I refresh the page, I see this warning that each child should have unique key. How will you remove this warning? Can anyone tell me how to remove this warning? Key. We have to put key. Whenever we put anything in the map in the React, for each LA tag, I want to pass key. Key is equal to u.id. It should be unique key, and each user will get a unique key, different key. That's why I'm putting u.id. Now you will see that warning is gone, and I'm able to see this user directly. So I put the name of each user. Let's put phone number for each one and email. So here inside the ally tag, I will create a div tag and I will put name. I'll create another div tag. I'll put u.phone. I'll create another div tag and I'll say u.email. And I'll put some br tag to display some space. Okay, so I get the username, I get the phone, email, so I get the different data for all the users. Okay, so I can display the users like this one. Okay, let's remove this u part. Okay, let's remove this users also. So I don't want to see the console, anything in console. Okay, so now I'm getting all the users from this JSON. Okay, so now this part, you have to write down this part. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes to write down this part. Okay, so let's go further now. Now we have written this. Is it done? No, this part is done, right? I gave a lot of time. Okay, is it done or no? Okay, so now whenever we get something data from the server, we always use this page and use some state variable to update the data, and then I can use this variable, that is the users, to loop through the array and display whatever we want to do it. This is same for all the cases which we do for the fetching the data and displaying the data to here. Now this part, I want to put this part in a separate file, and I want to just use that file here. So I will create a new file, and this one I will name it anything I want, but in this case I will name it as use fetch users.jsx. What I name it as, or I can use it as JS. I will rename it as JS because I will not be using any JSX tag. Okay, so I will create use fetch users. Here I will put this part from here to here. I will put it here, and in the last, instead of returning the JSX code, I will just return the users. What I'm returning, this users here. So what I did, I copied this part and put it in this file, and I name it as use fetch users. You can name it anything, whatever you want, but I named it like this, and I will tell you the reason why I named it like this. And I put the same code here, and instead of returning the JSX, I just return this users. Now what I will do, I will call this file in my app.js. So I'll say import use fetch users from /use fetch users. And then what I will do, I will delete this part here, and I'll just say constant users is equal to use fetch users. This is nothing but the function which is mentioned here, and I use it here, and I'm calling it here. And I can check here console.log users is users. To make sure I call this React only one time, I will just console URL also. So whenever I will load the page, this should not call multiple times. This should call only one time. If it is calling multiple times, that means it is calling the server multiple times. I'll call this like this one. Now we will see how it works. I'll refresh the page. You will see URL is called only one time, and I can see all the users here. This users is in the app.js, whereas this URL is in the use fetch users.js file. So what I did, I took the sum of the code and I put it in my this file. One second. Okay, so what I did, I put this part of the code from app.js to this my own file, and this file is called the custom hook. So I created actually one custom hook. So right now in React, we always use state or use effect. These are the hooks provided by the React library. But this is something I have created, and this is called the custom hook. And all the custom hook, you should always keep it with the use. So if you're building some kind of hook, you should use the use parameter and put the fetch users. But if you feel that you don't want to put use, then also it's fine. You can put anything, maybe mango. If you want to put mango, you can put mango. Anything you can put. Let's say you want to put different name, then also it's fine. Then you call this, okay, so you're calling this one, and instead of use page, I'm calling mango. I'll refresh the page. Okay, what it's saying. Okay, so I don't want to use uppercase. Yeah, it's saying uppercase. Okay, so I think we should use the name nomenclature which they have said, and that is something I have to use. Otherwise, I have to use as a component, but then component can be used here only in this part. I cannot use here. If I use it here, again it will give me error. Okay, so I'll use it with the use one. So maybe they have changed it. Initially, when they created this hook, I was able to put any name kind of thing. Okay, so now maybe it's a change in the new one. You use this name only. Start with the use and put whatever you want it here and use it here. Okay, so whatever I said, you can put anything is not right. So you can start with the use, and here you can put anything, and then you can use it here in this one. This is called the custom hook. I created the custom hook, and it should start with the use one. All this use state, use effect are something the default hooks provided by the React module, but this is the created by me, and I use it here in the page. Okay, so use it this one, use one. Don't put the capital one also. What is a hook? So in previously the React was always having the classes. Okay, React was having the classes. The initial version of the React, we always use the class and we put the component name like this. Later on, they created React library created lot of functional React library created this functional component. So we always create this functional component nowadays. Whenever we use this functional component, we have the ability to use this function. What function we can use? We can use the react.useState. We can use react.useEffect. We can use react.useRef. We can use react.useMemo. Okay, and we can use react.useCallback. So these are the functionalities provided by the React library, and this all functions which we are using, these are called the hooks, and these hooks are created by the React library, and we use it a lot in our code. So whenever we use the functional component, we can use any of this one which we want, and these are called the hooks, React hooks. But we can create our own hooks also, as I have created here. This is my own hook. This is called my own hook. Okay, and it has to be in the same nomenclature, like we have the use effect, use state. Similarly, we have the use fetch users. Okay, so I will give you 5 minutes to put everything in this custom hook and copy the code from here. Copy the code from here to here. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes to finish this custom hook. So is it done? So let me repeat one thing about the hooks. Whenever I use the use state or use effect, what I'm using it? I'm using the functionality of the React library. And this use effect and use state are nothing but the hooks in React. So whenever the React started the functional components, whenever they introduce the functional components, they also introduce the hooks, which will make us our life easier because initially these hooks were not there. So functional components were not able to do many things. So we were only using it only for display purpose. All the function components in React was used for the display purpose. But later on they removed all the classes. They suggested don't use class component nowadays, only use the functional components, and we can use all the hooks in the function components. You cannot use these hooks in the class component. So there are two types of components in the React. One is class-based component and one is the function component. Nowadays you will not see class-based component, you will see only the function component because the developers want to use the hooks which they provided it. And with the class-based component, they cannot use this hooks. So everyone moved now to the function components so that they can use these hooks. And these hooks are very powerful and they help us a lot in developing our website. Without hooks, we will not be able to build anything. So these are the few hooks which React provided, and this is the hook which I created it, and I'm using it in my application. So instead of writing this whole complex code, I can create multiple custom hooks, and I will only put my hooks here. So the code becomes much cleaner and neater when we use the hooks. That is why I created this custom hook. I can also pass parameter if I want, and then here I can take that parameter and I can use that parameter also. Okay, so any questions on this one? Okay, so that is for all today. So tomorrow I will, you have to do something. So see, I used one of the API of them. So tomorrow we will use another API, call it this API. So like, this is another API where we have title and body and which user has created it. So we will go through this API, and instead of displaying the username and this detail, we will display this title and body, title and body, title and body. Okay, so I will not do tomorrow. Tomorrow I will ask from you. Though I will do it, but I will ask everything from you. So whatever I created here or whatever I created in my custom hook, you have to help me in writing the code. So whatever we did here, tomorrow we will do same thing but for this post. And then also we will do, if I click the first user in the top, I should be able to see the details of this user. So we will do that part also. Okay, so that's all for today. If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, see you tomorrow.